Hello and welcome to a Let's Play of Wasteland 2 Director's Cut. Uh, the game is like a mixture of Fallout 1, 2 and Fallout Tactics. The fundamentalist control gameplay system is like Fallout Tactics. It's a team-based role-playing game. So less of the typical talk to your companions or romance them, but more about your entire team skills and abilities basically form a single whole that you use to roleplay in different situations and tactical combat, turn-based tactical combat. But it's still a role-playing game, I would say. The characters you make will drastically alter what you can and can't do. You can create a squad of up to 4 members, and the maximum squad size is 7 members. Uh, the creatures or characters you can create here are not the same as the ones you can recruit later. Uh, these guys are your core group that will stick with you no matter what. They also don't really react to anything. They're like party members in a game like Icewind Dale. So you created them. They don't comment on anything, but you have full control of your party. The people that join up later, or you can have an option to recruit later, are more like your typical NPCs. Except you don't really do the let's have a chat session with my own companions type of thing in this game. They're still just a face in the group, but they do interact and comment on things that are happen, and they might basically leave the group if you do something that they truly detest. So they more or less at least have a personality. Um, I would still say it's highly recommended to have the group. Maybe if you're an experienced player, you could uh, start with a smaller group or even a single guy, just to have more sort of reactions to what happens in the game world, because more of your group would be later recruits. However, first time definitely just make the entire group. I pre-made the characters simply to save time. Um, one more. Mm, right. Four-man group. We basically have a leader character that has 2 conversation skills. Medic. Uh, I'd say medic is a well. I'll say a few words about the character creation and the skills, non-spoilerish things, but maybe things like what I would have liked to know when I first played the game and make my first group, but didn't. So we have a skill monkey, and we have basically a fighter. Right. Uh, our leader is heavily charisma focused. It has no bearing on the conversation skills or anything like that. The attributes don't really work like that. The charisma affects leadership radius, and I think at every point increases it by 2 meters. So it's more about determines the area you're going to give your buffs and debuffs as a leader, and the bonus is reliant on the leadership skill. The conversation skills are something totally different and nothing to do with charisma. Uh, the first time I played the game, I made a group that had a charisma as a dump stat. So I want to do something a little bit different for one reason. The group charisma determines which NPCs you can recruit later. So basically, the one time I played this before, I probably got the bottom of the barrel recruits, and I have to say I wasn't really impressed with almost any of them. So it was really hard to get a seven-man group going that I was comfortable with. I want to see what the difference is with a group that has a significant amount of charisma, and I think the smartass as a perk that allows me to double the charisma effectiveness of this character. So since she already has 10 and that'll translate to 20, we'll get probably a group charisma of 30 plus when the first group I played had probably a group charisma about 10. 4 with the core group. So I'm interested in seeing if there's any kind of a significant difference in how the game unfolds. Intelligence determines skill points and not really anything else. So Scarlet will get 3 because intelligence 4. Stitch will get 4 skill points per every level up. Tinker will get 5 and Havoc will get 2. Uh, there's some benefits to this attribute system compared to a Fallout system. This is the classic system instead of the special system. Uh, In Fallout, agility determines pretty much your action points and combat speed. Here it's a bit more different. Even things like intelligence can provide extra action points. I think it's a combination of strength, speed, and intelligence. Basically, if you have a certain amount of points combined in these, you'll always get an extra action point. Coordination is another skill that provides just action points, but it's not connected to these three. The point is that you can get a decent amount of action points going for a character, so it can contribute to the fighting part of the game too, without just dumping it in some kind of a skill that only has combat benefits. So it creates a wide variety of different type of characters that you can make that are still combat viable. Um, the other thing that decides combat effectiveness though is combat initiative. When action points are how much you can do on your turn, initiative is how often your turn comes up. So a high initiative character, let's say 15 plus initiative, could easily have 2 turns when a guy with a combat initiative below 10 would only have 1. So action points aren't everything in this game. I'd say once you have enough action points, it's much better to just focus on combat initiative. Mm, I have a luck as dump stat because I don't really see the point. It has some evasion increase. Evasion directly lowers the enemy chance to hit. So even at 10, it's only 4.5% chance. It's not much, and a little bit of increase in base critical chance, I guess. It just isn't impressive to me in any way. It does have other benefits. It has a chance to get additional health per level and chance to get bonus action points per turn. However, it's a chance. I much rather build characters that are reliable every turn, so I can predict what I can do and achieve with my characters instead of relying on a dice roll. At the same time, it is luck, so I suppose it's an appropriate thing. Mm. Point about the attributes though is that the derived stats is where it's at for the most part, and there aren't that many stats that you need to focus on. Right, but skills. Uh, I don't want to go into detail what they do. More or less, things I would have liked to know. On the usefulness part, barter I think is the only skill that there's really no reason to take it at all. Even at level 10, which is a huge, yeah, 44 skill points, get it. Value of items being sold is increased by 10%, and value of items being purchased is reduced by 10%. It's just a little bit of extra money, and you can always get extra money by just fighting random fights. You're not gonna run out of money. So barter is just a gigantic waste of points as far as I'm concerned. Um, Animal Whisperer, I would sort of say is weakish, but I'm not sure if it's certainly not totally worthless because there are a lot of animal opponents in this game, and they're not like the typical animal opponents in that they're the usually the trash, easy to kill opponents. Here, a simple badger can have hundreds of hit points, so it's basically like a tank, melee tank in a way. So with Animal Whisper, you could get the animal to join in the middle to fight on your side. Things like that. It's also used in some minor task or little quest, so it has its uses, and I would never say it's worthless by any means. Barter is the only skill I would generally say you lose nothing by never investing anything in it. There are a lot of sort of lock picking skills, alarm disarming, computer science, lock picking, safe cracking, and toaster repair are all used to unlock something. Even brute force is used to do that. So, and they're not, sometimes they're interchangeable. Like if you have a small box somewhere, you might be able to brute force it open or just lockpick it open. But there are quite a few where there just is it there, you have to have the skill or you can't do anything about it. They're not really interchangeable. Mechanical repair acts as a sort of a backup skill. So if safe cracking, well, lockpicking, let's say you have a point in lockpicking. You find a challenge level 1 lockpick, you only have a 60% chance of successfully opening it. A failure does not mean that the lock is forever close to you, but a critical failure does mean that. With mechanical repair, you can sort of fix things once, so you can try again. And there's a handyman perk if you have even 3 levels in mechanical repair, which is very cheap to get, which means you don't have repair critical failures, which means you will basically always succeed in your repair if there's even a minor chance of you succeeding, because normal failure is just a time sink. It's the critical failures that you're afraid of and don't want to see. So I'd say it's a very good idea to get someone with mechanical repair 3 and just take in the handyman. Alternatively, you can just load the game constantly, but I'm not sure how well. It depends how into that you are. I find that fairly annoying. Not saying I wouldn't do it, not saying I won't do it, especially with toaster repair. I think this is the one mystery skill that you sort of go with, what the fuck is this? Toaster repair is only weird because it's named toaster repair. What it is toasters in this game are specialty containers that have a set loot. With uh, toaster expert perk you can get random extra loot, but it always has a certain loot items in it. The item itself is totally worthless. What you need to do with the item is find someone in the game world that wants that item. That not necessarily has had any mention of that specific item. You just sort of have to piece it together or just try to trial and error try it. Quite often there can be some sort of hints though if you pay attention. And if you give that item then to that correct person, he gives you something special. Things like skill books, a free +1 level up to some skill. Maybe some consumable items that provide temporary buffs that are hard to get or impossible to get otherwise. Maybe a unique weapon of some sort. Not necessarily a game-breaking super weapon, but something that you can never get through any other means, or it has a special effect it causes on the enemy that you can't get through any other means, or things like that. It's a When I first played the game, I didn't find use for all the items. I'm not sure if I got all the toasters either. There are certain places I never got to visit because of choices I made in the game. But even with around half a dozen items I never found a use for, I still didn't regret taking those to repair. So Your mileage may vary, but I wouldn't say it's a waste. At the same time, it's the toaster will sort of wait for you, so it's not something you need to take immediately. Mm, that brings up a certain little point. Does everything need to be developed full 10? Uh, Combat-wise, I would say just if you, yes, develop it to 10. You'll probably hit at 100% accuracy before the level 10, but the game has aimed shots that can be very useful, and they have massive negatives to your chance to hit. But once you can reliably do those, it's another level of boost to your combat capabilities. So definitely, combat skills should be taken to 10. There are some other skills I would suggest taking to 10. You don't have to take 10 levels. You just need the skill to be at 10. There's no use getting smart ass right above 10, even though it should be possible through skill levels and perks and items. But that's a waste of time. I wouldn't develop, or at least would be hesitant to develop certain lockpicking and toaster repair skills to 10, simply because the game offers tinker item slots that usually have like a skill +1, skill +2, even skill +3 in some cases. So since it's an out of combat ability, you might as well just switch the item. So it's these type of items like the repair and toaster repair, maybe save tracking, lockpicking, that sort of thing. You have the luxury of just switching the items, so you can save some points by not developing these full. Uh, Skills will get more expensive with levels, so the 2 levels in total probably are worth what? That's 44. Yeah, that's 8 and that's 6. So you'll save 14 points per skill that you don't develop fully, and that's in a new skill. It's 6 points to level 3 and then 4. So yeah, you can get another skill up to level 5 with a single saving on a single skill. So it can mount to a lot of interesting things because basically the even skills you don't want to fully develop unlock perks. So you might look at some of these perks. I can't look them in here, but you can look them in the game. You can see that something interesting is there. I think not the handyman, but things like weaponsmithing level 2, Tinker. I think this is like +1 action point when you're using light armor. So if you have a guy you sort of know you want to use light armor but don't want to make a weaponsmith, you can still sacrifice 4 skill points and just take the perk later on. It's a 1 extra action point, and it's much easier to get it through this way than trying to get it through attributes maybe. This is for many person this is just a level up or two to get it. Naturally you can't get perks all the time, but it's still just 1 perk, while it would be at least a couple of attribute points. Attribute points you can get extra 1 every 10 levels. So are you going to sacrifice the attribute gains of 20 levels versus maybe 2 levels on skill points? It's not much of a comparison. Hmm. Perception and demolitions, I would recommend having on the same character. It's not necessary, but it's a convenience thing. There's a lot of traps and mines in the game, so you need demolitions, but it's worthless without perception. And if you have one guy who has to do the spotting and another guy to do the actual work, it can become a bit complicated here and there. I'm not saying you can't put it on different characters. I'm just saying it's more convenient if the same character has them. Uh, Conversation skills, if you're gonna take them, I would recommend taking them to the 10 level and usually level up in a fairly brisk manner because you only get one shot at them and they're not chance based. So if there's a skill challenge that requires you to have smartass level 6, you either have it at that particular moment or you'll never get to take that opportunity again. If you back out of the conversation option to use the skill is gone. So either go with the skill or don't really care too much about it. If you want to be a conversationalist, you have to keep pushing the skills forward. You have perks that give bonuses to these. I think every conversation skill has a level 1 perk that allows you to buff the skill by 2 points. So you can artificially sort of buff it forward if you want to. And if you want to be good at this, I would heavily recommend that you do so. Especially with multiple ones, it's gonna be hard to find points for this and the leadership and a combat skill on top of that. Certain field medic are mandatory. The game has doctors, but frankly, like 95% of the heals are gonna come from your field medic. And you just can't have the skill. You need health packs too. So it's also by far the most effective and fastest way to heal. So you just gotta have it. Surgeon is revival, removal of toxins, removal of poison, removal of disease. So Surgeon is the one you're gonna be using if it's a quest related thing or anything like that too. So mandatory unless you expect never to have any one of your guys go unconscious, and even then it's used in quests and minor tasks quite frequently, so by no means is it going to be worthless. Computer science is also, I think, used to, you can take control of robots if you're good enough in the middle of a fight. So it's sort of like the robot equivalent of Animal Whisper in a fighting situation. Anything else? Uh, Weapons and weaponsmithing. Weapons are not equal. And I don't mean the different descriptions and strengths and weaknesses the game provides. Game provides weaknesses like low armor penetration and some suggest that you have different weapons simply to avoid having everyone use the same type of ammo. I'd say those two are not good reasons to choose your weapons. I heavily suggest you basically choose the weapons you want and ignore all of those other concerns, because ammunition is maybe even something you really think about too much for a couple of hours. After that, you'll have plenty of ammo, no matter what weapon choices you've made. Not saying you just find them randomly in the wilderness, but you can easily afford to buy all the ammunition you'll ever need. So you'd have to intentionally ignore the situation for it to ever become a problem. Armor penetration isn't the problem. I'm not saying that there aren't certain weapons that are better at it. I'm saying pretty much you either have the armor penetration specialist weapons that have armor penetration 10 at the end, or you don't, and you are sort of at the 6 and 7 armor penetration. Even the weakest or low armor penetration weapons will have those good armor penetrating weapon versions at some point. So that's not really a concern. But what I really would like to emphasize is the weaponsmithing part. Weapon modifications are not equal spread across weapons, and that's something that makes a significant difference in how useful a weapon can be. So, heavy weapons. You can never modify heavy weapons or brawling. And that sort of is a major reason why heavy weapons aren't that great. They have a medium range, and they're all heavy machine guns or mini guns, but they basically shoot like 6 to 7 shots, and that's it. Can't do any aimed shots or anything. They seem fine if you compare them on paper against some weapons, like assault rifles, but assault rifles can take 4 different modifications. Magazine, a scope, a barrel, and an underbarrel slot. That's the basic change will be a drastically increased range to sniper rifle ranges and beyond, uh, unjammable weapon, and more accurate weapon. So basically, you can start shooting a lot sooner than the enemy can usually shoot. You will be very accurate, so that will translate again to those good aim shots, or basically 100% probability of hitting normally. And it just It shifts the scale in favor of weapons like sniper rifles and assault rifles, which have the 4 upgrade slots. Even shotguns have one, and it's specialty slots for shotguns. It's uh, it's like a minor range increase, maybe things like that, and it's pitiful compared to the range upgrades you can get to the other weapons. So they just don't upgrade in the as well as the others, and I think for that reason, shotguns especially are a terrible weapon to choose. They just you're in a situation where the enemy outranges you, or your teammates are basically killing everything. So you're always in an uncomfortable spot. Maybe you can make things work if you have some kind of close range party. I'm not saying everything has to be close range, but you're more or less comfortable when you're close to the enemy. In situations like that, or you have shotguns as a backup weapon, because sniper rifles tend to be terrible at close range. However, you have perks to get over that, so it's not really a problem, and that sort of is the problem. Short range weapons just don't really compare to the long to medium range weaponry. Assault rifles, in my opinion, is the best weapon to choose. It's properly developed. It has the upgrade, has the stopping power, has the range, has burst fire, has aimed shots. It's not the best in everything, but it's like a great weapon that has no weaknesses. It's a fantastic weapon. Handguns, I think, are the best close range weapons simply because you can get some free shots, and you can do precision strikes. Fairly cheap to shoot too. So while it isn't as amazing as the assault rifles, it's still, let's say, if there was a submachine gun user, a shotgun user, and a handgun user on the enemy side, I would be most worried about the handgun user, because he would be doing the most damage to my guys. Energy weapons are a thing of their own. It's they do good damage against conductive armor, which is a specialty type of armor, usually heavier armor, and low damage against everything else. Cannot jam, can do precision strikes. It's very good against that conductive armor, but it is very lackluster against everything else. I think the saving grace with this is that it has the precision strikes, and it can get a decent range, like standard values sniper rifle range. So you even against target where it doesn't do the damage, it can do disabling attacks at long range. So even in those situations, it can support the other group. Energy weapons also have a wide variety of things. It has pistols, it sort of has the burst fire weapons, it has the rifles. So it has a decent variety of things. An energy weapon could be very different from the previous energy weapon you fought. A sniper rifle is going to be sort of similar to all other sniper rifles. Is that it? There is a specialty weapon type that is not mentioned here, and that's sort of explosives and missile launchers. Heavy weapons do not have missile launchers, they're just machine guns, but there's grenades have standard damage everyone can use at perfect accuracy, so do missile launchers. Missile launchers are like single-use items, like grenades, but more powerful and with longer range. So you can use that as a supplement in certain situations. But I would say in general they're too expensive to just constantly use. A simple grenade can be a couple of $100 compared to basically any weapon that could be as cheap as $50. So you're gonna have to be incredibly rich to be able to use explosives constantly as a only way of fighting. At the same time, a missile launcher can do 500 points of damage at 10 armor penetration. So it'll do the 500 points of damage. And even at late game, there aren't that many enemies that can basically survive. Something like that. Right. That's about it. I might have forgotten something, but I think that's all the relevant things. Uh, my character have some quirks. Delayed gratification on the Tinker means for the first 10 levels he'll get -1 skill point per level up, and after that +1. So 4 until level 10 and 6 afterwards. I ended the first playthrough at around level 40 something, so it'll mean massive amount of extra skill points. And that was without really farming experience. I basically avoided every random encounter I possibly could in that game. So I would say around between 40 and 50 is a reasonable weight level to expect to end the game. So that's probably 30 plus extra skill points Tinker will end up getting thanks to that quirk. Brittle Bones on Scarlet. It's basically my way to try to make a competent fighter with wasting so many points on charisma. Brittle Bones gives me +2 action points, but my mobility in combat is absolute shit. Combat speed 1.0. Basically, I move 1 for every action point I get. Havoc, on the comparison, moves 2.8. So that's why Scarlet sort of has the sniper rifles too. It will compensate her immobility to some extent. She will have the range, or she doesn't have to constantly keep moving massively anyway. While Havoc has bladed weapon specialty, so she has to be moving even in the best of scenarios constantly and waste action points. So, right. Uh, I was thinking to give a quirk to Havoc. There's quite a lot of them. They're usually have a benefit, have a drawback. Their drawback is significant though. So if you really don't want to change the way you play with the character, you're better off without a quirk. I was thinking of giving her the race in a circus, +5% evasion, drawbacks no leadership bonus. So we would lose accuracy bonuses in exchange of getting some survivability. But what is not mentioned here is that this will make your character look like a clown. And I mean quite literally. You'll have the red puffy hair, some clown boots, and a clothing option from a circus act. And you can't take it off. You can remove the clothing through some file editing, but you basically will lose the benefits at the same time, and you'll probably even keep the drawback. So it's just not worth it, and I don't get why it's done like that because it's a trap. It's not mentioned anywhere. It's just you spend a lot of time making your character and then basically get fucked over by the game. Because ha ha ha, you wanted to make your cool ass kicking action star there, and then she looks like a literal clown if you take the quirk. And there's nothing you can do about it except basically remake your entire team and start over. I mean, you basically wasted someone's time for a joke that maybe makes you smile for a few seconds, and then the rest of the 30 hours of gameplay follow on a character you don't like to look at. So yeah, it's a weird design choice, to say the least. I'll play with Ranger difficulty. It'll be reduced damage from my weapons, increased damage from the enemy's weapons, and no natural healing of any kind. Usually you'll get full health on level ups on season difficulty, but Ranger difficulty that shouldn't happen anymore. Uh, this is for a couple of reasons. Even at first playthrough, the season wasn't particularly tough. I think I died, I mean, as in lost a character less than 5 times through the entire Let's Play. Uh, so, for a second time, Ranger is, I think, more of a must-have. I know how the game works. I know more or less what to expect. Even though there are going to be differences, we're still going to more or less have to overcome the same type of challenges. So It would be very easy if I replayed it with seasoned difficulty. Game starts with the introductory cutscene. Very Fallout-like game world. The same people that were behind Fallout 1 and 2 are behind this game. Brian Fargo, the producer, I recognized immediately. I'm not sure on this, but I think Fallout 1 was made because they couldn't originally get license to make another Wasteland game. So they made Fallout franchise. And now that Fallout franchise is someone else owns it, these guys now own the Wasteland franchise, so they made another Wasteland game. So it's not in any way a coincidence that the games are very similar in theme and mechanics. It's the same people doing the games, so.
What comes after the end? I don't know. Neither did they. They were just an Army engineer battalion, constructing roads and bridges deep in the middle of the Arizona nowhere. They didn't know why Armageddon had come. They'd heard radio chatter about an attack on some space-based missile platform. But who had attacked it, or why? No one knew. What they did know is that the politicians and the generals had finally ended the world. Now, everything was gone. They took over a federal prison for a fort, kicked out the convicts, got busy starting from scratch. Maybe it was an act of mercy. Maybe they figured that the prisoners would die out in the harsh new world. Whichever, it came back to bite the engineers in the ass. Cultists, criminals, cannibals. They've been living with the fallout ever since. Good people had survived too, called for help in the night. And those engineers, those common soldiers, could not stand by and see them die. So they came out of their fort, and they helped the survivors defend their homes. And for that, they earned a new name, a proud name, the Desert Rangers. Now, Rangers, I know at times it seems our cause is hopeless. And I know it's hard to say goodbye to a brother in arms. But I want you to know something else. That no Ranger who dies in the line of duty will ever be forgotten. Nor will he have ever died in vain or unavenged. Thank you, recruits.
On the graphical look of the game, it can be upgraded quite a bit. The reason why there are jagged edges, no real shadows and the like, is because I had real trouble with the game being unstable when I played the first time. It's the reason I basically didn't make a let's play out of it, because I basically gave up on it. I'm hoping to get some more stability out of this. That's basically the reason. The game will look quite a bit better if you have all the effects on. A stiff-bearded older man wearing a hard-worn ranger uniform and a battered old cowboy hat. General Vargas walks with a cane, but he's not helpless. He wears a pearl-handled revolver on his hip, and there are a lot of notches on the barrel.
I appreciate you coming to Captain Ace's retirement party when you hardly knew the man. Appropriate, too, seeing as how investigating his death will be your first duty as a desert ranger.
Happy to be given the opportunity, sir, but are you sure we're ready?
Yeah, I know. You've hardly found your feet with us, and here I am sending you on a mission that already got one ranger killed. Well, I wish I had another option, but the Desert Rangers are spread a little thin right now. Ranger teams Abel and Charlie are out west trying to stop a range war out there from becoming straight-up genocide. And Team Baker is up north looking for a way through the radiation that's cut us off from Vegas. I'm afraid the next generation is going to have to lead the charge on this one.
What's the mission, sir?
The mission is this. Search the area where Ace's body was found, and do your best to recover his logbook and the repeater units. Then call in your report. If you find the repeaters, I may send you on to finish his mission. Ace's death must be avenged, and it will be. But finding the signal he died trying to track down is just as important. Besides, I got the sneaking suspicion that when you find the one, you'll find the other.
The signal is a threat, sir?
The voice on those broadcasts disturbed me greatly. It talked crazy talk about a future where man and machine would be one. Worse, it talked about us, the Desert Rangers, specifically. It said it was coming for us.
Call in, sir?
Yes, call in on your radio. Your radio is your lifeline to Ranger Citadel. We'll be calling you with alerts and updates on your current missions, and sending you new missions when we receive distress calls. As Rangers, it is your sworn duty to respond to those calls. That is the contract we made with the people of Arizona when we opened for business.
When can we enter the Citadel, sir?
Once you prove yourself, the Citadel will be your new home. Consider this mission the final test of your training. If you succeed, you are welcome within our walls. If you fail, then you aren't cut out to be a Desert Ranger, and we won't let you in.
Colored options are to represent the different dialogue skills. The game automatically changes to the character who has the highest in that skill, so you don't have to manually switch the characters here. I think that's what you need to do in the original game, but Director's Cut seems to have a lot of added spoken dialogue and a lot of improved conveniences in the gameplay. As far as the little I've tested, I tested because I hoped the original one would be more stable. It wasn't. As far as I've tested, basically based on this one area where you start the game from, there's no reason not to play the Director's Cut. It has more content and more conveniences, more spoken dialogue and everything. It just seems like it's also graphically superior looking. And I don't mean just the graphical effects, I mean a water, basically a fountain where you recover your water. In the first game it's just almost invisible, sort of a pump pipe on the ground. Here it can be a much more detailed tank and I'm sure water delivery system. It's everything sort of has a more polished look to it. This is far more pleasing to play. Different dialogue options are very different. I mean, as in this, not what the skills represent. Hard ass seems to be the tough guy, where you try to use the threat of violence, usually to get something. Mainly, I think, used against hostile groups, or trying to get people to back down from a fight. Uh, Smartass is like using logic, try to argue something, show your point, that sort of thing. Kissass is like, it's not just buttering someone up, it's, let's say, you have a NPC that has something bothering. and you sort of try to get them confide in you to get extra information. That sort of thing might be what a kiss ass is used for, or you inadvertently angered something or insulted someone. Kiss ass might be used to sort of smooth the ruffled feathers. So it really depends on what you want to achieve to which skill you would want to use in a typical situation. They're not interchangeable by any means. So if you don't have all of them, you cannot really use your conversation expertise to solve every situation. I'll go with the smartass. Surely, sir, the success of the mission is more important than testing us. If you want to find these signals, shouldn't you let us in so we can stock up on everything we need to succeed?
Using logic on me, eh? Smartass.
A skill use is rewarded by experience, so a skill monkey type character can get a lot of bonus experience. Also, certain skills are used more often than others, so and I think conversation skills in general are rewarded more. If the skill challenge level also determines how much experience you're gonna get. So a level 10 challenge will provide massively more experience than a level 1 challenge.
Logic and observation will change some folks' minds, and you can catch people in lies that way. But sometimes it only makes them mad, so be careful.
Yeah, the film provides a good overview of the skill.
In this case, you're right. I should let you in, but I got a feeling about you four. You got depth you don't even know you have, and it's gonna take adversity to tap them. So I'm sending you out undergunned and unprepared, just to see what it brings out of you. You'll thank me later. Maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe too. Repeater units, sir.
When you get back to the Citadel, talk to our radio expert, Wade Woodson, if you want to know more about the technical details. All I know is the repeaters will upgrade the towers and allow us to zero in on the mystery signal.
Where are the radio towers?
I'll give you the locations of the towers once you have the repeaters in hand. More important to find them first.
Where is this area, sir?
It's about a day's walk east from here. I'll mark it on your map. There you go.
You think the logbook was stolen, sir?
Don't know, but it wasn't on Ace's person when he was found. Look for it. It might have some clues as to his death.
You have the option of writing your own topics here. I'm not sure what you could do. I've never actually written anything. What do you have to say about kittens, sir?
We'll talk about that when you get back. Recovering those repeaters is more important.
How did Ace die, sir?
Ace had been trying to locate a faint radio signal, which has lately been giving us cause for concern. We gave him 3 repeater units and sent him to hook them up to 3 remote radio towers. This would have allowed us to get a fix on the signal, but sadly Ace was murdered by unknown assailants right after hooking up the first tower, and his logbook and the last 2 repeater units were stolen.
Thank you, sir. We'll do our best.
Good luck out there, recruits.
Okay. Right. We should have the basic equipment we have. We chose skill for, rather. So, shitty sniper rifle. Shitty assault rifle. You'll get about a full magazine and maybe 2 magazines worth of extra ammo. A heavy weapon didn't get that. It got like a full magazine and like a little bit of spare. Not even a full second magazine. But it was almost unusable at the start. Just didn't have enough ammunition to use it. We have decent amount of ammunition. All the weapons are terrible. $25 worth, approximately. 21. Right? These 45. Trash anyway. Shovel. Shovel can be used to dig up things. Taking the shovel to the guy who has the perception, because that's the guy we're gonna be mostly using to explore things. Might as well be the one who has the shovel, so we can dig things up right away. Yeah, I think I'll leave things here. There's a few places we can visit here and a few people we can talk to. Angela Death is a recruitable sort of senior NPC, uh, a decent combat fighter immediately. That is a good support for any group. I mentioned that basically that it's one of those things you should probably know at the start of the game. Angela is not a permanent companion, and I think she's the only one. So take her in the party with the full knowledge that the skills she brings to the party will be taken away from you at some point. So I sort of relied on Angela on the first playthrough, and I was sort of in trouble because the skills were suddenly taken away from me. So just a word of warning that she is useful and probably you should take it, but also know that she's a temporary crutch that you can't rely on. So plan on replacing the skills she provides with someone else.